Right, I'm recording.
All right, so welcome to my first session regarding CNTi. And this is actually for basic usage, so it's also good for newcomers in this area. And I will run also certification demo. Okay, so first something about me. I'm Martin Matyáš. I'm cloud engineer in Theatre. And I was focusing on telecom-related platforms and applications during last like 20 years or more than 20 years, including IMS many years ago, then going to OpenStack-related platforms and VNFs, CNFs, application or implementation of cloud-native applications. And just recently, starting of 2024, I started to be involved in CNTi activities as a part of Linux Foundation networking. So today I want to tell you something about CNTi basics. I don't know everything, right? So as you see, I joined this activity only recently, but I will do my best. But if you ask me something more in depth and more legacy stuff, I might not know. Okay, so I think during the One Summit and also during some of yesterday's sessions, you already heard some bits about CNTi, so maybe a bit of repetition. It's a cloud-native telecom initiative, and this initiative focuses on defining what is best practice for cloud network applications. This is actually the best practice part. In this part, we discuss and define what is actually the best practice for CNFs. We focus to be vendor neutral and to build some ground for different vendors to have common understanding what the best practice for CNF is. More to practical part, we have our test catalog, which is a test suite with implementation of tests for best practices. We have a framework which is based or written in Crystal programming language, and we have a library of test cases that test cloud nativeness of network applications and also platform a bit. And then third bit is the certification program, which is built on best practices and uses test catalog for testing. And it defines actually criteria for CNFs to be certified. This is currently in beta program. It's still in preparation and development, but we think that we have currently well-defined criteria what we think that CNF should fulfill. We have like 20 tests selected out of our library, which we think are the most important, and actually we built a certification program and criteria based on those most important tests. And by the way, let's make it interactive. And if you have any question during my presentation, don't hesitate to ask and let's discuss. Regarding certification, as I said, it's aspiration activity for certifying cloud native or cloud native network functions. And it should provide confidence for service providers and vendors that their applications are built well and they follow best practices, whatever it is. This is what actually our community agrees on with based on other sources regarding defining cloud nativeness. The certification is self certification. It's self-done self-certification. It means that vendor or provider needs to prepare their own environment based on Kubernetes or any compliant platform certified by CNCF, and they run actually the test for themselves. They collect results and submit it to community for review. If the tests fulfill criteria, they will get approval and certification, and they are then included among certified products. Regarding test catalog, it is basically a collection of generic and telecom oriented cloud native test cases. And it validates telecom application adherence to cloud native principles and best practices. Altogether, we have 87 tests for workload for CNFs. And beside that, we have also 11 platform tests. And as a subset of the workload tests, we have like 59 certification tests, and again, selection from that is 20 certification essential tests, and based on those, we have built the criteria for certification.
What's the difference between the non-essential and the essential certification? What's the difference between the essential and non-essential certification tests?
The certification tests are all tests that we think that should be considered when certifying CNF, and those essential we selected for this particular certification program as a criteria. It means those are the most important, and maybe I will talk a bit about a little bit later, and I will explain it later.
Okay. One other question about the platform test. So, what kind of things what do you mean on platform here, and what kind of things do you test in the platform test?
Platform, we mean Kubernetes-based platform, and we have tests. For example, what we do in the test catalog is that we use upstream testing products or projects to test. And for example, Sonoboy tests are part of our platform tests. So such kind of tests.
So it's kind of Kubernetes conformance test.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
This is part of platform tests, also Kubernetes conformance. So if I told that the end user needs to prepare a certified platform, the platform tests can be used for checking this.
So in the certification program, you have certification for platforms and for CNFs also?
No, certified platform is precondition. We don't certify platform.
Certified platform against what? It's the Kubernetes
Yes,
okay.
yes, CNCF certified.
So if the platform is already certified, do we still need those tests? Because
we need to fulfill precondition that CNCF or CNF certification tests run on platform that is certified.
so, for example, let's take the platform, right? When you look at the best practices from the platform perspective, so you start going from the very basics of the CPU isolation pinning. You check all those things when it comes to the best practices of the platform.
Actually, platform tests are not primary scope of our activity or for the test suite.
Okay.
We just need end users to use certified platform as a base.
Okay. So it's just for completeness.
Yeah.
Let me maybe clarify. I think the fact that it's self-certification. So in order for making sure that the self-certification is running on something pretty much well-known, you need to certify it first. So if it was as a service, then there wouldn't be a need for the platform test. But since it's self-run and self-hosted and self-executed, you need to make sure that the platform that it's running on has some basic capabilities that are verified by these tests.
I think you will cover next. My question is, when you say CNF here, what is the input to this test? Is it a running network function or operator? You take all the files, the definitions.
Basically, input is a Helm chart.
Okay.
We take Helm chart, install it into platform, and run tests on top of this.
So even if you can also consume the operator that bin, for example, if they define the operators for every network functions, right?
Yes.
You can consume the operators also as an input for this thing.
What do you mean operators? Oh, okay. I don't think so. I think we need Helm charts.
Okay, because one side they're pulling in one direction. If you're moving in another direction, how do we kind of ensure that? Maybe in future you might want to consider that
Okay.
also. I think.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, there are discussions in the community even considering usage Helm something as a cloud native, because it's not really a declarative thing and it's like a fire and forget approach, and they don't support day one and day two operations. So maybe you should consider moving away from Helm charts somehow.
Okay.
They don't like
it. Good point. Thanks. Okay, so we have actually what we test. We have a categorization of our tests, and those are actually categories what we focus on or what we test. So maybe quickly walk through. First, configuration. It should test or reply question whether CNF configuration is done in a standard declarative way. We check such things like Helm chart, hard coding, or linting. We test whether images are properly tagged, whether secrets are used for authentication, and such things. Then second category is compatibility, installability, and upgradability. There we test such things like whether application scales correctly, whether it's possible to upgrade or downgrade or rollback application, and whether the application is actually deployable using Helm charts. Then microservice principles. We check things like whether the container is using one process type for their functionality. This is like microservice principle. Whether the processes or whether the PID1 process handles correctly sick-term signal, which is a bit problematic in containers, or handles zombie. We check whether startup time is relevant. Then observability and diagnostics. As an example, we consider as a best practice that applications should log to standard output or standard error streams. And yeah, we check that. Other things, tracing, metrics, yeah, such stuff. Then state tests regarding right usage of volumes and wrong usage of volumes. We try to drain node and watch whether application migrates correctly. Right database usage, such things. Then reliability, resilience, availability. We check whether CNF behaves correctly in stressed environment, whether it has defined probes correctly, whether limits for memory and disk are set, for example. Then security, typically privileges, escalation permissions, root users, usage, things should not be used actually, right? And we have also some set of 5G tests for with ORAN and protocols inside ORAN. They are actually not really best practice tests, but they are rather feature tests for 5G applications, but we have some, and one can use that. Not really relevant for certification, though.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask. Like, is this part of the certification program?
No, I will go more deep into what is exactly part of the certification.
And these 5G tests are so testing ORAN-E2 and the heartbeat. Okay, so and in ORAN, so ORAN also have some testing programs inside ORAN. How this relates to that?
I don't know, honestly. I know that that we have actually some tests, and they test some real sanity protocol related stuff. I don't know how. Maybe you can correct me, and I can check.
Yeah, I think the TIP you're referring to telecom infrastructure certification of ORAN.
Yeah, that's even more complex. Yes.
Yeah. So TIP, maybe a telecom infrastructure project from Meta. So they also have some similar certification around ORAN and other things. So my question is on the compatibility part. See, in these CNFs, right? EV, especially those around the data plane, they invariably use accelerations.
Okay.
So when you do the installability or when you start the CNF, do you also check before starting whether there are these kind of acceleration, maybe whether it's SRIOV or XDP, or these things are set up or they're configured?
No, we don't see into such things. We focus on more generic things, and whether application is using DPDK or not, we actually don't see into that.
Then either you should check at the platform level or at the CNF level, because it will eventually fail in the CNF. It needs some or the other acceleration, because most of the CNF works on acceleration, especially the data plane ones.
Yeah, but we focus on best practices.
Exactly, best practices. This is part of the best practices only, right? Like how many SRIOs to configure for this thing? Are you assigning more than this thing?
Okay.
I think you bring a good point, but again, keep in mind who's doing the certification. It's probably the CNF vendor, and they know best how to deploy their CNF in a way that properly consumes the. But again, the CNF vendor will know best what they need from the platform. I think these kind of generic tests, they assume, let's say you developed a UPF and it needs SRIOV, and now you want to certify it. You'll probably not run it on some, I don't know, Kubernetes platform that doesn't have SRIOV. So the assumption is that you already installed your CNF on an optimal platform for you, for the CNF, and now you want to certify it. So there's no point in making, maybe it's lower priority, I won't say no point, but I don't think it's a high priority to make sure that the CNF is getting all the hardware acceleration it needs from the infrastructure, because we can assume that the CNF vendor already took care of it and now they want to certify.
So you don't repeat, but let's hear settings. Thank you.
No, just a comment. What we need to know is the cluster configuration. So, for instance, for the cert to make it meaningful, we should need the Kubernetes E2E logs to understand against what the CNF runs. So we need to understand if we will be able to onboard or not the CNF if it's certified. So that's why it's not only about providing the YAML file from CNF test catalog, but also providing the Kubernetes E2E logs on the same certification directory, plus of course the CNF test suite logs, because we need to understand why it fails or not.
I think this is why, so I think the current tests in the test catalog and the certification tests are really testing how nicely the CNF follows the cloud native principles, and it doesn't guarantee that the CNF will actually run. And this is why I think it shouldn't be a certification program, because it doesn't guarantee that your CNF will run on a platform, because we don't have the platform part certified.
So the fact that it doesn't certify everything, I kind of not sure it doesn't disqualify it from being certified. Like if you take this microphone, it has stamps of several certification, and each certification tests something different. So you can be UL certified, but not certified to be connected to some Wi-Fi network or something. So it's different things.
Yes, but one certification guarantees at least something.
But even it's written, I think, in the certification, the CNF has to pass on a cluster validated via CNCF conformant. So that's why at least we need the E2E logs to understand what's the platform, the feature exposed by the platform. I understand the need of checking if the CNF is cloud native or not, but there are also needs to understand if we can onboard or not this certified CNF, because else it's just one small issue in our current situation. So we could address at least both to expose the features needed, exposed by the cluster, and at least let's say the cluster verification. That will help to understand if it could match or not other deployments.
I understand the doubts about certification, because it's not the criteria are not really hard, and best practices are not really a hard thing. It's rather, well, best practice. And what we intend the certification certifies is adherence to the best practices.
Yeah, so I think I get your point, Cedric. There's a motivation to extend the test and test those things as well. I was just speaking about the priority and why you don't already see that. So yeah, I agree, in the future it can be extended and more information from the platform can be brought in to the test results and to the certification.
Even if we look at the document on GitHub, it's written that the CNF must be verified against a conformant CNCF cluster. So if you want to, you have to publish somehow the E2E logs inside the same directory as the CNF conformance YAML file, just to match the document. It's for me, it's not the same. I mean, yeah, I know CNTi test catalog is also able to run E2E test on its own. I know, but I'm meaning that you ask the vendors to push the CNCF, the CNF test suite YAML file in a specific directory. You must push as well the E2E log, whatever it's executed via Sunoboy, CNF test catalog, or anything else, or Functest Kubernetes. It has, the output file must be published as well for the certification process. But yes, it's not enough for instance, for my need, because it will be also a first step to expose what the cluster is.
And the next slide, just a confirm. On the microservices, it looks pretty interesting. So you will start the CNF and go and check whether the processes, how many processes are running in that. Oh, nice. Mm-hmm. It was part of the CNCF, or it was custom built for this?
It was, no. Well, the tests were there, but they were, prior that there were certification program as a part of CNCF, and those tests were not part of that. And we brought them during this year when we started to be part of LFM.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so let's take a look on some demo I've prepared. Well, let's take a look on test execution. So first, the test suite, which is used for running certification tests, is based, or is it written in Crystal programming language? It's compiled language, and as a first certification step is download this binary. It's statically linked, so it should be transferable easily. And for my example now, I prepared one so-called CNF. Well, it's external DNS from Bitnami. I have downloaded locally, so it will not be checked as a part of Helm repo. It's also possible to run checks against CNF from Helm repo, but for now, let's say I'm developing CNF and I have Helm charts here locally. You can see in this directory external DNS. I hope it is visible. And as an input for the test suite, I need to prepare a descriptor, YAML descriptor, which is called CNF Test Suite YAML. And I need to fill there a few things, including the directory where the Helm charts are, and a few other things like namespace for installation. So this is basically preparation for running certification or running tests. And then actually I need to set up the tooling by CNF Test Suite setup, which will set up some things on locally and on Kubernetes as well. Well, I need to have Kubernetes accessible via kubectl. And then I need to set up the CNF by calling CNF Test Suite CNF setup with parameter for CNF Test Suite. And this will deploy CNF to Kubernetes. As you can see, it is, you can see in here deployed pod, external DNS, and beside that, the tooling deploys also cluster tools, which is which are pods for which the test tool uses for some tests. So the setup for environment and the CNF was done. and now tests can be executed. In this example, actually, I'm executing just one category. I'm executing security. So tests are running. We'll move it forward. Okay, so here we can see that a bunch of tests, actually 20 security tests were executed. 19 of them passed and one failed. And actually non-root containers failed. And non-root containers is a test that actually tests whether the container is using root users or groups, and that failed. And as a CNF developer, assumed CNF developer, I can then, well, the tests also show me possible remediation. If you can see it here, the tests tell what I need to adapt in Helm chart. So I can adapt it, fix it, and actually rerun the test. And before that, I need to redeploy CNF, of course, because it was modified and fixed. And I can rerun then specifically this one failed test, not non-root containers. And it should pass. Yeah, it did. Okay, so this is how the test suite work.
How are they organized? One question on the test cases itself. You just started like a subcategory, like security tests. Are they organized in a separate repo, or how do you organize those and extend those?
Yeah,
or is it hard-coded?
I will describe it in the second session more in details, but shortly, everything is part of one repo, test suite and set of test cases, and test cases are organized into files accordingly to categories. Everything is written in Crystal, test suite is in Crystal, and test case implementation is in Crystal. And some test cases use upstream tooling. For example, in that case, security tests mostly use Kubescape. They call Kubescape.
Okay.
Okay. So certification steps, we are slowly running. How many? We have 20 minutes. Yes, I think so. Yeah. So yeah, we still have some time. So certification steps, in short, first check eligibility criteria. Well, for now we have a beta certification program open. So there are some terms and conditions, but in general, this beta program is open for any interested party. Anyone can apply and take part of this beta program. If and once this becomes official certification, if we follow the intended approach, then the certification will be free for LFN members. And for actually non-LFN members, there will be a fee that would be equal to LFN membership, basically. In case that some company does not want to become an LFN member for whatever reason and want to participate. But yeah, basically it's for elephant members. Then second step, run certification tests, check results, check criteria, submit tests, and then use it in promotion, be mentioned in LFN landing page, and obtain certified mark. Well, I will skip. We have instruction in our repo. This is basically more in detail what I have shown. So regarding criteria, we require participants to run all the certificate. Maybe I will rewind back. We require participants to run all set of our 59 certification tests. But for evaluation of or for criteria, we take only those 20 which we consider as essential. And the threshold for getting certification is 15 test cases out of those 20 essential to pass. There is some margin of those 5 test cases allowed to be failed. Because actually best practices are not hard, and there could be some cases that we did not actually somehow took in consideration that or that there could be some reason why some vendor does not follow some specific best practice. So we allow some margin of like 1/4 of those essential test cases. Okay, so regarding particular test cases, are you interested in details about each particular test case that is criteria for certification? Should we go deep into that?
Maybe you can give 1 or 2 examples.
Okay, maybe just a few examples from each category. From security, typically, as I already showed before in the demo, privileged containers, containers should not run in privilege mode unless it is really explicitly needed for some particular reason. Then non-root containers should not run under root user and group. Then, for example, sock mounts in containers, they should not be used for security reasons, actually. Then microservice. Yeah, the best we consider as a best practice that containers handle sick time, and this is actually in general best practice for cloud native applications, because platforms can terminate pods and subsequently containers, and applications should handle their shutdown, actually, right? And this is, by the way, not in case that application is run under PID1, they should take care of handling sick term. Or the alternative is that CNF vendors can use specialized init system like TINI. There are specialized init system for containers, like really lightweight and tiny, and they will take the job of handling sick term and also zombies. Zombies also need to be handled, and they need to be reaped by PID1 process in containers. Then compatibility, scaling. We check whether the pods and CNFs are scaled properly.
So in case of horizontal pod auto scaling, you are just ensuring that pods gets to the ready state, or there are any other checks?
No, we require the tests to be run. Well, I'm not sure what we mean. We require tests to be run on the multi-node platform. So what we do is to initiate or the increased number of replicas and see whether applications are or whether there are additional replicas created correctly and up.
Okay, clear.
Just ready, or you do a ping, do a hello, you go anything beyond ready?
No, ready. State test. Volume host path check. Actually, CNF should not use volume with storage class host path. We consider this not as a good practice from various reasons, also security. We test node drain. We drain one of nodes and see whether pods are rescheduled. Then configuration category. Host pod not used, not to be binded to a node. We check, for example, across Helm charts whether any IP hard coding is present. Latest tag for images. Images should be versioned and properly tagged. Resilience tests, liveness probes, and readiness probe. This might be not really appropriate for really every case, but for most cases we consider this as a best practice. Then observability, output to be directed to standard output and standard error streams. Okay, so maybe just quickly additional demo certification.
So yeah, can I have a question? So I'm sorry, in that list when I saw all those things, right? I'm struggling to see anything telco specific that I need to do for me to pass. Because your 15 out of 20 is okay for me to pass. If I don't do anything telco specific, I will still pass.
Yes, you are right. In this certification step version, which we are basically starting or proposing to be starting certification, they are quite basic tests, cloud native, rather generic, and there is nothing telco specific.
Correct. Okay. In that CNTi is missing still. In that CNTi is still missing, I think. It's still more cloud native than cloud native telco.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think this will come at some point, but currently in current certification step, it's rather cloud native generic.
But if I were to be a CNF vendor, what is the reason for me to come and get certified? I would just use the CNCF testing thing and just get it done because it's still cloud native only.
Right, but what CNCF program would you use?
No, the tools the tools that are tools that are out there for me to test all those security checks and everything that you listed, right? I can do that with available open source tools that are there. Yeah.
You could, but why should we have it all in one-stop shop?
No, but if had it been some telco specific, I would have come as a CNF vendor, right? Because it costs for me to come.
No, self-service doesn't cost you anything.
Oh no, if I'm a LFN member, then it costs nothing. If I'm not, then it costs for me, right? Yeah, why where there's no convincing reason for me. It's still in this in the certification, telco things are still missing. So as of today, it's not convincing enough for me.
Okay, it's something that's been worked on under the LFN for the last 4 months or so, and work is just begun. It's
Yeah, we become
it's
LFN
not
members
the end all
during
be all.
January this year.
Okay.
And if it wasn't clear, it's an open source project, and we are constantly looking for more contributors. So if you're a CNF vendor, I would recommend maybe assign some developers to develop tests that will make you look good. So all CNF developers, all service providers, integrators are welcome to join.
Thanks for.
Okay. So yeah, I'm running demo currently. Well, I've executed a certification set of tests, and I can see here the results, and I have 18 out of 20 essential tests passed on this example. And I can see what is not passing from the essential tests are first the specialized init system, because my example actually does not use specialized init system. However, it handles correctly SIGTERM, and it handles correctly zombies ripping. And I think one additional essential test which did not pass was because actually I don't have sufficiently compatible platform where I run this example. So one of those tests failed. But in general, my example is good enough to pass the certification. And for certification protocol, I need to prepare some files, some protocol regarding how the tests were run and what were results. And also some description file for my application that I want to certify, like vendor and name of application, URL of the product and such stuff. So I need to prepare those formalities. I need to copy the input files and the results files that I used for the certification to run and that I got from the certification run as a result. So there is a YAML file generated from the test suite with all the results. And yeah, I need to prepare that. And then actually I need to prepare a pull request to our certification repo with those files. It means product description and the test output results. Okay, and I need to then create this pull request. commit message, git push. I have cloned a repository actually where I prepare this pull request. And that's basically all I need to prepare. Then I have created a branch with that, and I need to create a pull request then. Create pull request. Demo of DNS certification. I can see here all the results. Essential 18 out of 20 passed. And I can create a pull request. And that's it, actually. Then community will get my pull request and review it, and eventually award my application with a certification badge. And that's basically all for this part for the certification. So any additional questions?
Why crystal?
For this, no, I have a bit better answer for that. Well, first, I'm on this project like 4 months, so I had similar questions. So mostly this project or the test suite was started like 3 years ago, and there was some consideration how to write the test suite and what tools to use. And at the end, Crystal was selected. From today's point of view, as I personally see it, maybe my colleagues would have different opinion, but as I see it, the good reason for selecting Crystal is that it produces a standalone and independent binary file that execution that can be executed basically wherever, can be transferred quite easily to any machine and executed. So this is maybe the advantage that I can see from using Crystal.
Okay, and this this whole framework itself is I can run it in the within the kind of Kubernetes cluster. Because sometimes in some of the cluster, I may not have external access to some of the things. I may have to go inside the cluster and then run these tests sometimes.
You need to have the kubectl configuration file configured, and you have environment variable pointing to this, and this is what you need to access the cluster. So it uses kubectl and other tools, and via kubectl configuration file, you can access it.
Okay, but this framework itself is not it should be it is containerized, right?
No, it's not.
It's not containerized.
No. It's a binary file.
No, but there is a container proposed by Functest Kubernetes, mostly reusing the binary plus preparing the configuration. To your question, it can be executed outside the cluster. You just need an access to your the URL listed in your kubectl. So, in case of Functest Kubernetes, it's executed outside the cluster. Sorry, I take the mic, but if you could go to file change here, just on the pull request, file change it, sorry. My point here is, if you keep scrolling, you should have the E2E logs executed after executed. The E2E log should be part of the pull request, because it's mentioned that CNF Test Suite must be executed against a certified cluster. So normally we should have another file in this pull request. That's something we could discuss after, but it's not enough to publish the YAML file to fulfill the requirement of the certification. And also, I would love to see the log file. Having just the YAML file is not enough to understand the root cause of the issues. So the CNF debug log should help here, and I would suggest to push it in the pull request as well.
Okay. Well, this is what instructions tell now, but we, of course, we
Yeah,
can discuss.
Yeah, but the instructions are somehow incorrect compared to the requirement saying that it must be executed against a certified cluster. Well, it's not a big deal, but I will recommend here to add 2 other files in the pull request too for the certification.
Yeah, we can discuss that. Okay, so thank you. And for you who are interested a bit more deep dive into the CNF test suite, we will continue in 5 minutes.
Every part of Tieto or is it different?
It was Tieto like 2 years ago, and there was a merger with Every. Every is a big Norwegian, Norway, Norway, and Tieto merged with Every, and since then we are Tieto Every.
It's in Czech Republic, right? No.
I'm from Czech Republic, but Tieto Every is actually Sweden, Finland.
So by any chance, you know Martin Klosik?
Of course.
Was it? So please say hi to him. Nice to meet you. So I'm Sridhar.
Okay.
So I used to work with him in the VSPER project in OPNFP.
Okay. Oh, very nice.
Martin, you're doing the next session also, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I saw you consolidated.
Yeah.
My session?
Yeah, you moved to 12:45.
The Robert Varga session?
The closing session.
Oh, yeah, I moved it a little bit closer because I canceled Robert's session because everybody's gone. And Robert's not getting it, I was gonna get it. Because he booked his flight, he wasn't paying attention to time zone. He booked it. And his flight left before his time. So then I was gonna do it, but now there's not enough people here, so he said, well, just record it.
Everybody's leaving.
So, and all I'm doing in the closing session is, hey, there's a survey, get home safe.
No, I don't need to. Well, I'm leaving at 2:30. Actually, my flight's delayed. So.
It's already delayed.
No. It's
This is about.
flight coming in. You know, it's
Engine fell off in a fire.
no. They said it had to do with the number of flights that are coming.
Well, you do think of it. Yes, San Jose Airport.
I have fun, yes, I love it. The San Jose Airport is just fine, however, no East Coast flights go.
Really? No, not directly.
Why?
Why?
They stopped. Yeah, JetBlue used to go.
JetBlue had one in New York. They went Southwest, they don't fly.
Nobody from the East Coast?
Nobody.
Zero. When you go.
Not yet. Wait. The bumper?
Yeah.
Oh, the cigar. I wasn't a cigar. I just knew. I don't know if they have a certain time. I don't know if they have a certain time. But it's in like the. I'm assuming they're.
When you. Flying out. No, flying out. Well, now it's 5:20. Oh, okay. So late. Going back to Dulles. Are you? Yeah. I'm going to Dulles, so that's when I just changed my flight ticket. Oh.
Y'all fly together?
Yeah, want to get taken over with me? Sure. Absolutely. You know, it's at 2:30 at the Marriott. No, sorry, at the Hilton. Okay. Yeah, I'm just going on a quick cigar flight. Yeah, just give me the lobby. Of the Marriott? No, no, no. Taking that flight? Yeah, I just, I was telling, no, I say this all the time. So when I was booking my plan, I was on the East Coast. Section of the country. So I was thinking I had to be here sometime. I still didn't get it, still today, you know, something. That's their old job, but yeah, but I'm landing in Dulles. Yeah, but I was landing, it's better than what I had. I was landing in that time.
I just sent you the place that I have seen before, but I don't know actually how to do it. I just think.
Yeah.
Where is he sent to the Havana place? There's a Havana place here in San Jose.
Well, I need a cookie in Boston. LG cigar. I already called my dentist.
So it wasn't a salty gooey cookie, is that what you're thinking?
No, this is a real old crown.
Knocked out a crowd.
Yeah,
It knocked out a bunch of crowds.
yeah, it was a 3-year-old crown. Yeah. Yeah, I was like, why do you use this cookie? I'm like, you're so. I looked and I was like, oh, big old crown. Wow. So I already called my dentist. I have a appointment on Monday.
The cookies are here.
It wasn't.
I was surprised.
Crown's been in my mouth for 30 years.
Okay.
Oh, that's a long time. Yeah.
They might have some downstairs.
Sure.
Oh.
They got a really nice.
Oh, yeah, that is nice.
Yeah, it's right across from where you got last stores.
Yeah, the little store is pretty nice. Yeah.
I don't know.
The only thing is the gift shop. Yeah.
Right, can I start
It's gonna be a little thin over your last session.
on attendance, right? No problem. All right, so let's start the second CNTi session intended for potential contributors or maybe current contributors and a bit advanced users. Maybe still for some introduction, a bit from different angle, the scope of Cloud Native Telecom Initiative, how to reach the adoption of cloud native technology for network applications. Yeah, by defining best practices, by having test suite with automated tests, and by providing certification. Yeah. The interesting stuff, how our repos are organized. We have 2 organizations in GitHub. We have LFN CNTi, where we have the 3 repos, one generic CNTi, which basically does not have any content and serves as a host for issues tracking, which are generic, not specific to any specific subproject. We have best practices where we have defined documentation regarding and formalization for best practices. And we have certification repo where we have description of the certification process. And it also serves, as you see before, as a repo for submitting pull requests for certification. Then we have CNTi test catalog organization with the test suite repo, including framework and test case implementation. I will just jump over it, I think. CNTi best practice repo, reasoning, use cases, and formalization of best practices. This is what it is there. And certification criterions, participation forms, and description of steps. And the test catalog repo. It is a framework itself, and the framework provides a binary, which is command line interface, and the test suite leverages upstream tools where possible. We use, well, it will be in following slides. So we have this CNTi test suite binary, and we have embedded there or used upstream tools. We use kubectl for generic approaching Kubernetes cluster for some tests. For example, when we have in-house implementation of some tests. We use kubescape for mostly security-related test cases. We use Caverno. We use Litmus Chaos and some other tools. And part of test cases we have implemented in Crystal directly. So the test tool connects to a Kubernetes cluster, deploys CNF there using Helm charts, and executes tests. Regarding code structure, it's quite, I would say, simple. The implementation of the test suite uses some library, which is kind of make-like or allows organization of code into tasks, which are make-like tasks.
I have a question about that. Do you foresee any need to make it a better, more complex hierarchy?
I didn't get that.
I was thinking in terms of cataloging, are you thinking of like breaking into texts, grouping catalogs?
Yeah, well, currently we have one task per test case. This is the sum task in Crystal, and we have tests organized into categories that you saw in the first presentation, and that's basically it. There is one file per category, and test cases are part of this file. This is what we have now. Yeah, of course, we are thinking about improvements and how to organize the test suite better for future. And we are thinking about stuff like dividing the test suite from test cases and design something like plugin architecture for the test suite and for test cases, and to have them in different repos, and to allow whatever third party is interested to provide their set of test cases in form of plugin. So we are thinking about such things, but at the moment it's quite, let's say, monolithic repo.
Yeah, that's what I was getting to. Yeah, I mean, maybe it's okay.
This is what it is now. Yeah, so it's quite, this organization is quite convenient for whoever wants to add a new test case. It's just adding a new task in Crystal, and maybe do some dependency stuff in case that, for example, the test case uses Kyverno, then some Kyverno related prerequisites needs to be fulfilled or whatever. But for people that write test case, it's quite convenient now, but it brings some disadvantages as well. So of course we are thinking, as I said, about how to do it better, but this is where we are now. This is directory structure. Actually, what is important here is SRC directory with tasks, and this is where all the test cases as a tasks implementation are. Additional directories which are worth mentioning are sample CNFs, or maybe the naming is not really best, I would say, but the example CNFs directory contain, well, example CNFs like core DNS, and one can actually run the tests and test suite on top of those example CNFs. Okay. Well, there are some Crystal language usage implications that one needs to keep in mind. Crystal is basically very close to Ruby by syntax. There are some differences. Like, for example, it uses static type control. This is one big difference. And second big difference is Ruby is interpreted language and Crystal is compiled language. And yeah, it's similarly as Ruby, the code basically quite a lot uses blocks, code blocks. So it's a bit specific Ruby and Crystal in that, and the structure of code is basically driven by that. All right, so how, maybe then just what are typical steps with calling the test suite? First, environment setup, CNF test suite setup, then workload setup. I think this is what you saw in previous presentation. Test execution. You can execute any particular group, like security or certification test set, or you can also execute one particular test case or multiple test cases. And as a result, you will get a YAML file, as you'll also see before. Some tweaks that are useful. You can switch on debugging output by -L debug. And you can, for example, execute a specific group with excluding some tests by using the tilde and name of tests. Okay, I've prepared some demo. In this demo, I will show more how the third-party tools, the upstream tools, are used on example of non-root containers tests. And I will execute it here as a one test and with debug output switch on. And in this example, actually, yeah, it's right here. You can see actually how Cubescape is executed and how the results are then collected by CNF Test Suite. And what I can do is actually to replicate specifically this command calling Cubescape. In case that I want to try something different or see directly the output from Cubescape, so I can copy paste this Cubescape command from the logs, and I can directly execute it again and maybe change the output from that, because the tooling gets the JSON results from Cubescape. Maybe I want to change it to standard screen output and see what happens. Cubescape gets executed, and I will get some results of the tests that were actually executed. In this case, those non-root containers. Okay. Yeah, and right, I have a subsequent example, adding a new test. So so far I was operating on binary that was downloaded directly from the repo, from the Redis. And now I've cloned the test suite for myself, and I want to show you adding, well, actual code and adding a new test case. And in this example, I'm adding a new platform test from security category, and I've been showing operation with Cubescape. So I will just add a new test that uses also Cubescape. I'm doing here a bit copy pasting. Well, the code structure is not optimal. There is some copy pasting when for every test case, but it's not that bad. So I took example from the other test case, control plane hardening, and I want to add a new platform test that checks whether secrets are encrypted, or whether platform is configured in that way that it stores encrypted secrets. It's a platform test, but it's basically the same as any workload test of CNFs. So I basically took a skeleton of previous tests and renamed actually ID of test case that is taken from Cubescape results, and adapted test cases IDs and outputs in case of errors and in case of success, and That's basically it. In case that I have tests called by third-party tool, in this case, Cubescape, it's yeah, very straightforward change.
How difficult is it to write their own tests that are not covered by this existing?
That's a question that is quite difficult to answer in general, right? It depends on the logic and what you really need to do in Kubernetes.
For example, you have shown that there are like 5G specific tests you have on this agenda somehow. Let's rephrase the question. So how do you intend to implement these tests that you have in this or test specific?
I don't know, but I can show you how our current tests that test ORAN and 5G are implemented. Yeah, actually, Watson is doing that. Yes. Okay, let's start. As I said, the test cases are organized in task directory, and we have then platform and workload tests, and then we have a run file with the run tests. And yeah, I'm not that familiar with those tests, so I cannot give you a description too much in depth. But I can see there that there is some ORAN monitor module implemented on let's say library part of the code, and yeah, it calls something. I don't see that much into that. So, is it done? Maybe we can take a look at how this ORAN monitor. Is implemented. Yeah. Just to get idea. I cannot comment it that much, but this is how the E2 checks are implemented. Watson uses here the cluster tools. Those are those pods that are deployed by the tooling to a specific namespace to cluster, and provides among others tools also T-Shark. And in this case, E2 session established is checked by actually calling T-Shark in those cluster tools.
Yeah, I mean, the question was just about how easy would it be to come up with specific tests, you know, for the tests.
Yeah, we have different libraries for kubectl. So depends what it is.
But if you in the past months when you have started working with that, did you add new tests or did you just?
We added some tests, but mostly simple ones using the upstream tools. what we were working mostly is improving the test suite or the framework in form of code optimization and reducing copy-pasted code and such like more, as I said, the test framework related stuff. And one other thing, we want to work on adding new tests, and we initiated a discussion about new tests. And we have ongoing discussion in the test suite, ideas for new test cases. So what we are thinking is, for example, this one, this we already implemented. This is this encryption of secrets. Then we have other ideas like doing security scan on container images, for example, using, again, some upstream tools. Maybe having some security-related intrusion tests, and some other security-related ideas. Yeah, some relatively arbitrary checks, like or whether application uses caching, like using Redis or Memcache. This could be also good practice in specific or in some approaches. Optimized or check whether image layers are optimized enough. There is a good tool, Docker Dive, for that analyzes that. So we are also thinking about adding this. Checking for using of deprecated Kubernetes options and parameters. Yeah, and some other ideas that we have and we want to work on. And yeah, I think that I've collected this also as a part of presentation. Yeah, I will get into it, maybe what I have next. What is also part of the repo is tests for tests, right? We implement tests, so we need to test them. And we use a spec concept of crystal language, which is similar. If you know Ruby, they have RSpec, and well, they have also spec tests, so they're similar. And basically, we have spec tests for every test case, or maybe more tests for one spec test. Usually one positive, one negative, something like that. And those spec tests use sample CNFs that we have part of this repository. Yeah, and when doing some changes into test case, a developer can run spec tests that are testing this particular test case, and yeah, check whether they still work okay. And all spec tests for all test cases are part of GitHub Actions. So once a pull request is created, so in order to be merged, GitHub Actions need to pass. Challenges to be addressed. I forgot one more. I will add it. attract more end users. We have some end users internally from LFN, like Anuket and now newly Silva. Maybe also next Nefia. Let's see. Attract more contributors. I think historically, WorkCop was working on that tool since 3 years ago. They started it, and here and there other parties were contributing to that. Also Tieto-Every, and beginning of this year, actually Tieto-Every got involved a bit more. We have a team of like 4 or 5 developers working on improvements in test suite. And we would love to see more contributors. Cedric also is a very good contributor. Improve tooling, that's what we are trying.
One question on the contribution side. So what would you say that at the moment, how diverse is the kind of contribution landscape? So is it depending on one company that development of this can continue, or is it in a handover process that there is enough knowledge the rest of the community to continue this, like test basics, develop a framework, or what is your kind of
the landscape as I see it now, there are 2 companies that are contributing by let's say several developers, like 4 or 5 developers, and this is Work and Tieto-Every. Then we have other companies like Orange, like Samsung, maybe F5, maybe other Matrix, Olivier, that are mostly individual contributors. And of course, Work is historically behind this activity, and Work is currently exclusively maintainer of the tool, the test suite. Tieto-Every started beginning of this year, and actually we feel quite confident from technical point of view. We think that we know like quite big part for the tooling. There are some areas which we don't know yet too well, like for example those ORAN related tests. They are not sure in this area. But yeah, to some extent we feel confident.
Another way to answer the question would be, who is able to merge code inside CNTi? Is it only one company, or is it several companies? Who has the committer rights? Who has the right on the GitHub actions, etc., etc.? I think that's part of the question, I think.
This is to give you a short answer, because this is still undergoing some changes. It started with just one company, Volk, but we are now in a transition to change this and put it in the hands of the broader community. So more details to follow. It will soon be under LFN. Specifically, who will be the admin and everything is still under discussion. But within a few weeks, the ownership of the repo will transfer to the LFN.
No, I understand the ownership, but the question is more about the committers, etc. I think that's the clear question. I'm pushing code issues, etc., but I have no specific right. For instance, I understand that when you start a project, everybody who raises a hand is committed on the project, but that's a challenge. What if you come back to the previous slides, what I would love here to see is to improve the gating. For instance, the GitHub Actions are failing as soon as you are forking the project. So, and for what I saw, it's just because it's a bad Docker login actions which are fully useless. So that's something which must be removed. And then the gating will work very well, because without gating, it's hard to work. Also, what I would love to see is more, let's say, relevant gating. For instance, in context of Silva, the securities are done on the cluster. So we have to put as GitHub action real deployment. Right now, I know CNF Test Suite does not follow the best security practices. That's something which must be put in Gate, and then we will enforce it works in a secure environment. And also, but that's a classical way, I think the test suite must be hardened as well. There are we discuss about some bad practices that starting the test case result as true, and if a failure happens, you set it as false. But that's part of the classical, let's say, classical work. Yeah, I would love to see an improve in the gating. That's very, I think, that's the place we have to work very quickly. And even I don't know if there is a need for hardware. I don't know. That's something also which must be discussed.
Yeah, so regarding infrastructure for testing, we are currently dealing with some issues with the legacy hardware resources that were used for GitHub Actions from the CNCF times. We need to abandon this and yeah, get some replacement somewhere.
Yeah, this is something the Linux Foundation is working on. So there were GitHub Actions that were running on Equinix bare metal machines, like 2 or 3 machines, and they belong to the CNCF, so we can't use them anymore. So we're working on that. It should be resolved soon.
Yeah, this is one part of that, and second part is if there are new contributors who want to contribute and they need actually some cluster for testing, so they are basically on their own. Contributors need to have their infrastructure for, let's say, ad hoc tests during development.
That's something you can use UNH and book servers as soon as you're a LFN member. You can. Yeah. And you can do even that's something you can do.
Some contributors are not LFN members.
Yeah. Other could share a public key. And no, but anyway, I think it's the fact that the gates are useless when you are not creating a branch in the CNF GitHub repo is a huge problem. And I have to know if my patch is correct or not when I submit it. It's failing because because of the current design of the GitHub action. So. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, we started to discuss it, discussing some challenges. Maybe I will add some more. Test run duration, especially how it scales when running on more complex CNFs. So accordingly to what we heard from some trials on real CNFs recently on this new scope of certification that we created now in the beginning of the year, the runtime or run duration sometimes maybe take more than 1 day to run certification tests. So we need to take a look on that. Usability improvements. This is additional actually area where Tieto is trying to improve stuff, documentation structure, maybe documentation as a code. We were thinking about various kind of improvements regarding documentation. Well, currently test case documentation is spread among several MD files, and we want to make it more compact and more usable from end user point of view, and also more easy maintainable. User interface, better organized logs, better command line interface, getting better organized symptoms from test execution, such stuff. As we discussed several times, improving modularity. We are thinking about kind of modular concept, including plugins for maybe various areas of the test suite, including test cases. Adding more tests. Also, we have this repo where we document best practices. So this also needs improvements and is welcoming contributors, especially for formalizing current best practices and then joining discussion about current best practices, whether they are correct, or we already initiated discussion about some current best practices, whether they are really best practices and whether they have importance as it is now. And then maybe establish some links between best practices and tests in order that perhaps test catalog can leverage from formalized best practice definition, and perhaps also use it during execution for actually referencing best practices. For certification, what is needed most, I would say, is feedback from certification process executed on real CNFs from real vendors or providers. Go through certification beta process which we have in place and provide feedback, whatever it is. Then, of course, joining discussion about certification criterions and improve certification documentation. Yeah, and this is basically what we discussed for the test catalog. Architecture, adding new tests, ideas for improvements. All right, so how to get in touch with us? We have Elephant Tech channels for general best practices, certification, test catalog. We have regular calls for best practices on Monday, bi-weekly, test catalog every Tuesday, and certification also bi-weekly on Thursdays. And you are welcome to report issues with the test suite on our GitHub, and also initiate discussions as a part of tickets or part of GitHub discussions. And you can submit pull requests. And this is pretty much all from me. So any additional questions? Thanks for attending and not leaving me alone. Thank you. Okay, so I think that's it.
Okay. So I'll do my closing session then right now, because I did a pre-closing session for the other group because it ended about 20 minutes before you did. Yeah,